Good afternoon and welcome to this hybrid meeting of Social Services, Housing and Community Safety Scrutiny Committee on the 21st of September 2023. I'm Councillor Charlotte Goldsworthy and I will be chairing this meeting. Before we move on to the next agenda item, please note that this meeting will be recorded. Please can you all ensure that your phones are switched to silent for the duration of the meeting. Can members and officers who are present in the chamber please use their microphones when speaking? And when asked to raise your hand, can members who are virtually viewing this meeting raise your electronic hand? Members who are in the chamber, please raise your physical hand. For the purposes of declarations, I would like to confirm that we will be scrutinising items 7, 8, 10, 13, 14, 15, and we're not scrutinising item 9, but we are going to ask Craig just to give a little brief on that. So now I will move on to agenda item 2. Are there any declarations of interest? Peter Richards, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, item 14, page 301, assistive technology. Care and repair mentioned in there, and I'm a board member with Care and Repair.
Okay, thanks. Agenda item 3. You will see the minutes attached at pages 5 to 11 of your agenda pack. If you feel these minutes are an accurate record of the meeting, I will propose, and can I have a seconder, please? If members do not wish to indicate to the contrary, then I will take these minutes are approved.
Second, Chair.
Second, Chair.
Thanks.
I can see no indications to the contrary, Chair, so the minutes are approved.
Item number 4, introducing the report, or the annual report. Do members have anything further to add to the report? The recommendation is listed on page 14 of the agenda pack. I will propose, can I have a seconder, please?
I second, Chair.
Thank you. Can members please indicate if they wish to abstain?
I can see no abstentions, Chair.
Yeah. If members do not indicate to the contrary, then I will take it that the decision is approved.
I can see no indications to the contrary, Chair, so the decision is approved.
Agenda item 5. This report is for noting. Do officers have anything else to add to this report, please?
I'm sorry, I think my there's been a problem with my internet. I'm just on my phone. Is agenda item 5 my paper?
Housing and communities, your mid-year report, yeah?
Thank you, Chair. Sorry about that. I've had an issue with my computer and I'm on my iPad. Yes, please, I would like to just add to that. So following on from questions I received after the presentation I gave at last scrutiny, and also in light of us being a new department that was only established in January, I wanted to provide you with an overview of our progress against our key programmes of work. The cover report provides a response to questions raised following July's presentation. Appendix 1 offers an overview of our work progress, and Appendix 2 sets out key data sets in relation to the demographic makeup of people presenting to housing options and our temporary accommodation. There are a few updates since I wrote the report that I just want to provide you. So in relation to our transitional accommodation capital programme bid, we've had really good feedback from Welsh Government on that. So although we haven't had anything official from Welsh Government, we're feeling very positive that we will have some good success in that application, and that will likely, if it all goes ahead as we're hopeful, we will get an additional £2 million worth of capital funding for registered social landlords to be able to purchase properties in order to increase the number of social houses available to people that are homeless. So we're hoping to get at least around another 50 properties through that Capital Grant Programme. In relation to the work that we're doing with families that have children who are homeless, we've been doing significant work around that. Following a meeting that we had with RSLs recently, we're going to be setting up a working group with RSLs to really target on supporting families with children to move out of all forms of temporary accommodation. And the figures to date are that we currently have 8 families with 11 children, a total of 11 children in bed and breakfast. That's 8 too many. So I'm not saying that's, you know, I'm not patting ourselves on our backs or anything. We've got to get to 0, but that is a massive change from where we were a couple of months ago when we had 30 families. So we are moving in the right direction as well. Also just to mention as well, the community safety team have secured funding to continue the Young Persons Hangout project for the rest of the financial year. So there's been some other updates there. So that's my introduction and update. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Shirley. An excellent report. And in fairness, you know, the way in which obviously you have, you know, been in this role is quite a short time, you can actually see a difference being made already. So I just want to thank you for that. So now I'll actually ask, has any members got any questions? Nope. So this report is for noting. So I will go straight on to agenda item 6. We now will move to the Cabinet agenda for pre-decision scrutiny. As previously mentioned, we've decided to scrutinise items 7, 8, 10, 13, 14 and 15. And again, Craig, we will ask just to give a brief overview on 9. So again, we just move on to the Cabinet board. So item 7, this report is also for decision. So this is for the healthy relationships for stronger communities. Officers, would you like to add any additional to the report?
Yes, please. I'd just like to introduce this, please. So earlier in the year, we requested permission to go out to public consultation on our draft Healthy Relationships for Stronger Communities strategy. The strategy is a joint response between the Council and Swansea Bay University Health Board to the Violence Against Women, Domestic Abuse and Sexual Violence Act, which places a duty on local authorities and health boards to publish and deliver a local strategy. The strategy itself has 7 key objectives. 1 is around communication and engagement to increase reporting. 2 is increasing awareness of safe relationships with children and young people. The 3rd is to hold perpetrators to account. Number 4 is early intervention and prevention to reduce the number of repeat victims and high-risk cases. Priority 5 is training for relevant professionals. Number 6 is making sure we have accessible services for victims. And 7 is to have an increased focus on the recognition and responses within the criminal justice system. The consultation, we did a lot of consultation prior to going out to public consultation on this strategy. And so the consultation responses indicated agreement with the strategy content. And as such, we are now requesting approval of this strategy.
Thank you. Anyone, any other officers want adding anything, Andrew? No. If not, I'll just go straight into members' questions, and I'll go over to Councillor Sharon Freegard, please.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks for inviting me today and be able to ask some questions. Apologies if I go over things that you've already discussed, just please let me know. I was just wondering, on page 50, it's talking about the responses that are 100% agreed, but how many responses did we actually receive? And then I just wondered, you've virtually answered the question because you said it was a joint response with the NHS, but I just wondered if the documents, if they were the same, the NPT document and the Wales document, or were there some changes between the documents? So 2 questions there. Thanks.
Thank you. And Eleanor, who oversaw the development of this strategy will probably be able to answer those questions. Eleanor, please.
Thank you, Shelley. If I can come back on the second part of your question, and then if I'm able to come to Lisa for the information on the consultation work that we did. Just in terms of the differences, so we've got a joint strategy which has been prepared by the local authority and the health board. And in the strategy, we reference then the Welsh Government National Strategy. Their objectives in the strategy are very similar to ours, but not identical. We've added the 7th objective, which is on criminal justice. And we've done that just in recognition of information we get from local survivors, from our partners, that we felt it would be remiss of us really not to include that as an objective and a priority area going forward. So the national strategy is there. We do work towards that, but very much what's contained in ours are the local actions based on feedback and our work with our partners. Thank you.
Going to come back on that?
No, thank you for that.
And Harad? Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to ask really what else we can do to work with the police and courts to identify what exactly needs to change to support the victims during the evidence gathering process. Because I noticed on page 88, or is it page 42, it says to continue to work in partnership with the police and courts. Well, obviously, you know, that type of cultural change with police and courts takes time to change. So I was just wondering, is there anything specific that needs to be changed there, and how are we going to go about doing that?
Thank you for the question. I know Eleanor works very closely with the criminal justice system and the police force. Eleanor, are you able to provide a response to that, please?
Yes, certainly can. So just a couple of things there. I mean, we recognise very much the same way that you do, Councillor, that there's a lot of work to do around this particular objective. Some of it is perhaps broader than what we are able to do locally, because these are sort of national issues which need a lot of attention. But that being said, there's still a lot that we can do as a partnership. Our team, for example, we have 4 independent domestic violence advisors as part of community safety. We're all co-located within the police station, working very closely with our police colleagues at all levels, and with access to their database as well to help us with our own inquiries and support. In recent months, one of our local specialist providers, Thrive Women's Aid, they've just had some funding for a 5-year project called Rapid, which I'm not sure if councillors are aware of, but we can certainly share more information in due course. The idea of this is that they'll have officers from Thrive also based at the police stations, and they will go out with the police to any domestic abuse related calls, and they will act as that sort of initial support mechanism, helping people to take statements and to do so in the right way. But also a big part of that is offering training to police officers when they are recruited and during the course of their time within the police force, just to make sure we're enhancing their knowledge of domestic abuse, the types of response we would expect to see, and that sort of follow-up support then throughout the time of taking a statement and beyond that. Some of the wider pieces of work that we've already done and will continue to do around this, we've got the training that's being rolled out to all of our local authority staff. And with the goodwill of Rachel Dixon, our training officer, she's opened that training up to local magistrates. So far, we've been able to train 29 local magistrates on Group 1 of the domestic abuse training, which has been really well received. And I'm not aware that other local authorities are doing that at the moment. So it's a really good step in the right direction. And also we've got the Specialist Domestic Violence Court. We've looked at setting up a subgroup or a steering group really to steer some of that and make sure that we're going in the right direction and doing what we can. So there's a lot to be done, but there's a lot going on already that we can build on. And of course, we're always open to suggestions from councillors and constituents if there's more that we can do to help.
Okay, thank you.
Lisa, apologies. Obviously, you got a question that Councillor Brigard gave to you, and obviously I moved on a bit too quick. So
Thank you, Chair. So it was regarding the consultation process. There were two aspects of the consultation. So first of all, we consulted with survivors from the local services who put forward the strategy for the in draft format for those, and invited them feedback from them. And I think we had around 6 local survivors took part in that consultation. We then, once the draft was approved, we took it for public consultation, and it was out for public scrutiny over a period of 2 weeks back in early May, and we had around 18 members of the public comment and provide their feedback on that particular consultation as well. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it just would be helpful if we had the numbers in the data next time. Thank you ever so much. Thank you.
Yeah, is that okay then? If obviously for future reports, you can actually put more details on stats down. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you for that feedback.
So this item is for decision. So I'm happy to propose. Oh, sorry, the chamber. I'm so focused up there. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you very much, Chair. And I do realise that I've come very late. You know, you're almost ready to implement this strategy. So the question I have is, if someone in the county borough were experiencing domestic violence, but it hadn't actually hit the radar of any particular service, like social services or the police, for example, you know, because most of these perpetrators, they start small and it ends up, you know, more serious. What would be the journey of someone, or how would they come to the council for help? What would be the journey of somebody who felt, hang on now, this is getting a little bit rough or out of hand? What do I do?
There will be different ways of being able to access services. Eleanor, would you be able to talk through how the council is part of that journey, please?
Yeah, certainly can. As Shelley, you've already said, there's a number of different ways that perhaps people could make a disclosure about what they're experiencing. We do recognise there is a significant issue with underreporting with domestic abuse, and that's a long-standing issue that we are trying to tackle. So Lisa, who's also on the call today, is the chair of our communications and engagement group, which is specifically around Bowder SV. We do a lot of work in that group to look at how we can get people to recognise that they are experiencing any form of domestic abuse and how they can access help and support. So we try and promote a number of different methods for people to get in contact. We appreciate not everybody wants to contact the police, and they may prefer to speak to a friend or a family member. They may want to speak to, for example, a local area coordinator if they're looking at attending local services. It could be that they speak to a health professional, and we know that is a particularly common form of disclosure, because that's the one opportunity where an individual may be alone with a health professional in a medical appointment. So they'll use that window of opportunity. So we've got our own training programme in the local authority, which looks at training all staff in how to respond to a disclosure of domestic abuse. And our health colleagues and our police colleagues are also subject to the same training, in the hope that we get a consistent approach, regardless of where anybody may make that disclosure. We also promote our 3 local specialist providers that are funded by our Supporting People grants. So we've got Thrive Women's Aid, which primarily covers Port Talbot. We've got Callan DVS that covers Neath and Pontardawe, and then we've got Story, formerly known as Havant Cymru, and they cover the whole of the borough. So between us all, we have got a wealth of services and disclosure options, if you like, that are available for people. But that said, it's going to be an ongoing piece of work that we need people to recognise the signs of domestic abuse, but also that if they do want to speak to somebody, they've got plenty of options available to them, and we can be confident that they're going to get the right kind of response. Particularly coming into the council, it could be our customer services staff, there could be somebody's first point of contact, it could be a housing benefit officer, it could be a support resettlement officer, it could be a number of different people. But if we can do our bit to show what the community safety team can do to offer, or just be a point of contact for further advice and support, then I suppose it really strengthens and evidences the need for the strategy that we're talking about to make sure that we've got the right things in place to support people.
Thank you, Chair. That's quite encouraging. Thank you.
Great. One thing I do actually pick up a lot at the moment is a number of the organisations, as you've just said. Obviously, one was previously Harvard. Is it Harvard? I think a lot of these name changes of the same organisations is very confusing when you're actually signposting people or to know. So is there anything that we have or can be put together where anyone that's changing names, or, you know, what the service that they actually carry out, that we actually know as councillors? Because at the moment, when people are coming to me, I'm sort of struggling, whereas before I always used to know straight away where to refer people. So I don't know if that's shared by other councillors, especially new councillors, but that has been an issue for me of late, to be honest.
We can pull something together for you so that there's a resource pack of kind of resources where you might be able to signpost people that come to you, or if you're aware of a situation that requires signposting, we'll work on that and then send that out to you all.
Oh, great. We're not expecting it overnight, but if obviously it can, just sort of progress and then go down the road in the future, we can maybe just add to it like a little directory for us. And that would be much appreciated. Thank you, Shelley. So as no members have any further questions, the recommendations are listed on page 17 of the Cabinet Board agenda pack. I myself will be propose. Can I have a seconder, please?
I'll second, Chair.
Can members please indicate if they wish to abstain?
I can see no abstentions, Chair.
Members, if you do not indicate the contrary, then I will take it that this decision is supported to Cabinet.
I can't see any indications to the contrary, Chair. The recommendation is supported to Cabinet Board.
Again, this report is for decision. Agenda item 8, the commissioning and care and support services for 3 supported living schemes. Sorry, I was going there then. Officers, would you like to add anything to the additional report?
Thank you, Chair. Just to give a bit of background on the report. So the report relates to the procurement of free care and support for free supported living schemes. This is part of the commissioning development plan to develop more services to meet the deficit we currently have for individuals who are able to transition from residential schemes into more independent forms of support. So as part of that, we secured HCF funding, capital funding to develop accommodation. And then this report sets out how we will do that and just seeks permission to undertake the procurement exercise, and also for the head of adult services to have delegated authority to enter into the contract to the winning bidder.
Thank you for that, Hayley. I've got one question, unless obviously anyone else wants to come in. But Councillor Marcia Spooner, please.
Diolch, Cadeirydd. I fully support the report. I fully support the recommendation. I just want to jump on this opportunity to ask a bit more information about how locations are selected. I've got a few in my ward. They're integrated. Everybody's very supportive of them. But on the community cohesion bit, where we want to access education, employment, volunteering, Ross. I love Ross. Do not get me wrong. But we rely on public transport or the goodwill of residents. Our community council is amazing. The hall is available. But if you need anything, like medicines or a chemist, or you are relying on additional transport, to say the ones we've got are working great with a few teething problems, as Shelley will know, but we've got through them and the residents are very supportive. But it's just a bit more information of how.
Okay.
I know it's difficult to find the right accommodation, because obviously there's guidance around that, but how then do you decide, this is a good place to put people? And I'm not just talking about Rose, I'm talking about everywhere. So
okay.
I'm jumping on the bandwagon more than anything.
That's okay. It's a fair question. So when, as everyone knows, it's the property market is quite limited at the present. It's an ongoing struggle. So we've identified one property out of 3 at the moment, and we're actively looking for others. When we come to shortlist a property, it's determined by access to central locations. So if we are looking at a property that's been identified and is perfect but is further out, we do assess whether there's transport links, community connectors and stuff that can link in with the property to make that, you know, accessible for people accessing town centres, etc. Sometimes, and specifically with the supported living scheme you're referencing, Councillor Spooner, green space is therapeutic for this cohort of people. So it's a bit of a balancing act, really. It's on a case-by-case basis. So some schemes are very attractive because they're in the middle of the town centre. Other schemes are very attractive because there's a lot of green space, and that's quite therapeutic for individuals with a mental health diagnosis. So it is on a scheme-by-scheme basis, but it does involve our occupational therapist, who's absolutely fantastic and assesses the needs of the individuals and what's around the scheme. And we've got a housing coordinator. There's multiple people involved in it, but it's commonly based around the needs of the individuals.
Great, diolch yn fawr, thank you.
Can you just be a bit mindful, because it's I'm struggling today. I don't know whether it's my ear in that, but if you can just slow down a bit when some of you are talking, because I know obviously, you know, you're in committee and you know your stuff, but just for me to sort of be able to digest a lot of what's being said, that's all. As I can see no other indication for any questions, the recommendation is listed on page 95 of the Cabinet Board Agenda Pack. I will propose, can I have a seconder, please?
A second, Chair.
Can members please indicate if they wish to abstain?
I can't see any abstentions, Chair.
Members, if you do not indicate to the contrary, then I will take it that this decision is supported to Cabinet.
Can't see any indications to the contrary, Chair. So the recommendation is supported Cabinet Board.
Again, agenda item 9, this report is for decision. It's a delegate, so I will just go over. We're not actually scrutinising this, but Craig is just going to give a little bit of a brief.
Thank you, Chair. So this is a report that was brought to you in a sort of similar format back last year when the Council received a request from Britain Ferry Town Council in respect of their Liberty Hall daycare provision. They've been providing subsidised meals to the elderly and disabled residents of Britain Ferry at that facility. And they were relying on a legal power that enabled them to do this. But it came to light that the amount of money that they were spending on that service was greater than what the legal power would ultimately allow them to do. So to continue investigating ways in which they could continue to providing the service, they recognised that one of those legal powers was vested in the local authority to be able to take action. So they asked us whether we were prepared at that point to delegate that legal function, which is a completely normal thing to do and a perfectly acceptable thing to do to another public body. And members approved then at the Cabinet Board meeting roughly around this time last year to grant that delegation. Since that time period, they've been working to try and identify ways in which they can continue to provide the service without the delegation. However, some of the other legal powers, which would usually be open, are sadly not applicable to Britain Ferry Town Council in this case. So they've come back that whilst they continue to do this work and look at ways to continue to providing the service without that delegation, would we be prepared to extend that delegation for a further 1 year? So I've been in discussions with our Head of Adult Services. Legally, it is within your powers ultimately to do so. So the report before you today is a decision to extend that delegation for a further year whilst they continue to look at ways to be able to provide it without it. And obviously we'll get some update reports back to members in that sense throughout this process as to which way this delegation is working and whether there will be a continued ask in future years. Happy to answer any questions that the members may have.
Thank you, Craig, on that. I think we'll just go straight now to, obviously, the recommendation is listed on page 123 of the Cabinet Board Agenda Pack. I will propose this. Can I have a seconder, please?
Happy to second, Chair.
Can members please indicate if they wish to abstain?
I can see no abstentions, Chair.
Members, if you do not indicate to the contrary, then I will take it that this decision is supported to Cabinet.
I can't see any indications to the contrary, Chair. So the recommendation is supported Cabinet Board.
Agenda item 10, this report is for monitoring only. Do officers have anything to add to the report, please? Andrew Jarrett?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I don't know if you can see me. Can you? My camera seems to have gone off.
Yeah.
Oh, you can see me? Okay. Yeah, must be something like problem on my end. So this is the performance information for Q1 for the Directorate. You will see this is in a new format. It's in the format in line with the corporate approach to the presentation of performance information. It'd be interesting to find out whether members have found this easy to look at and digest. We're just getting used to it as staff as well, so happy to take any questions. But this is the way it will be presented in the future.
Right, I can answer that one. Obviously, on the members one quite easy. It's I think it's one of those ones that we're not used to seeing it in this way. So again, your eyes don't go straight to the colour codes and things like this. I personally prefer the other way, but again, it's up for other members to give their views on it as well. We have 3 people that got questions, but obviously members know that if they have a question, I'm happy to take it. So if I start with Helen.
Yeah, my question wasn't a question, it was a comment on on the way things are presented now. I don't like them either. So.
And by the way, we're actually looking at agreeing, nodding heads, but I think that's actually right across, obviously, members.
Chair, can I just come back on that point then?
Yeah.
So I think whilst there's a corporate way of presenting the information, it's not beyond the pale for us to decide within this committee that you want the information in the way that it was done before, because we continue to monitor the information in that way as officers. As I say, this is purely it's meant to be easier for members to understand the performance information. If that's not working, it's really important to me and my officers that you actually can understand all of this and it does make sense to you. So I'm happy to go back and have another look at it. We do have to keep presenting it in this way for this particular report, but we can give you other reports which will give you different way of looking at the information.
It's new to us at the moment, so we don't want to actually be causing extra work for staff. So let's go, maybe another meeting or so, and let's see how it obviously goes first. Because people tell me change is good on time, so we'll go with that, because it's not fair on staff to do this and the rest of it. But if obviously that, we'll take you up on that if obviously we do keep on struggling. Thank you, Andrew. You've answered my next question, so I haven't got a question there. So if I can go now to Councillor Freegard, please.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think the diagram itself doesn't give much explanation, and that's probably why I've got a couple of questions, Andrew. On page 140, number 1, I'm just wondering, the referrals outside of the 42 days, whether they have come in time order. Are all the referrals that you receive, are they dealt with in order of when they come in, or is somebody looking through them to determine the urgency of the referral? Because that's a bit of a concern. I don't know whether you want to answer as we go along, Andrew, or whoever's answering.
Yeah, I think that's helpful, Councillor Freegard, if we answer as we go along, only because it might be different people who are answering different questions. Okay. So David Harding has done a lot of work on collating this information for us and understanding exactly what it's saying. But also Kerry Warren, Children's Services, manages our front door. And so either of those two might want to give a view on the question.
If I may come in here then, Chair, and I know people would be queuing up to answer, and Chris Ray Davis is here as well as the lead for QA. So every bit of information that comes through to the front door, there are eyes on that and a decision made within 24 hours. So there is no delay at the front door. So literally the stuff comes in and it is looked at and a decision made essentially, immediately, straight away. So I don't have any concerns about there being any delay in that process. That's something that we prioritise. The stats reflect that, and also and have done for some time. And also there's real rigour in the system in terms of how those arrangements are regularly reviewed to make sure that they are what they need to be, which is a safe system at the most critical part of the service, which is the front door. But I want to do that justice. It's a really good question. So I'll bring in Dave, as I'm sure he'll want to comment, and then Chris Frey.
Yeah, thank you, Kerry. Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, as Kerry said, every contact that comes into the service, there's eyes set on those contacts within 24 hours. And I think further down in the chart, you'll see our performance reflects it with 100% in that area. And that is one of the key areas that the front door do focus on. The chart you're referring to there is assessments that result from those contacts. Now, there is a 42-day time frame for assessments to be completed from those contacts. So within that, any referral that ends up in an assessment, the target for us is 42 days. I know the service strives to achieve that 42-day period. There will be times, and there are some examples within the chart there where it's not always possible to get an assessment done within 42 days. But whenever that happens, principal officers are kept informed, and all the assessments that fall out the time frame are quality assured as well. So we do make sure that we are trying where we can to adhere to that 42-day timescale. I don't know, Chris, if you have anything else you want to add to that.
I think just to add that the as you mentioned, Dave, it's eyes on when the contact comes in. The decision's made within 24 hours, but for those cases flagged as child protection, when they come in, they'll be looked at immediately, and the response might be within an hour, as quickly as that. So it is very much what you're presented with will determine the response, but all contacts are reviewed as they come in.
And it's such an important part of the business. If I may, Chair, bring in Maria Selby, who, along with another principal officer, looks at every case, so every situation, if an assessment has gone out of timescale. So she'll meet with the team manager and the worker to know exactly why we haven't met timescale. And that's not just in terms of assessment, but that's in terms of every area of the business. But I'll bring Maria in because there was a couple of examples that she wanted to give that'll show that sometimes these things are out of our control.
Yes, so I meet with the team managers when they are letting me know really that an assessment's going to go out of timescales. We sign those off. Sometimes we are waiting for some information to come in, and it's prudent that does go into the assessment. For example, police reports or reports from other professionals. Then we will allow it to go out by a couple of days just to get that information in. There's been other times when maybe a child hasn't engaged as well as we want to, but we've got something set up, and we will try and engage with that child then, and then write that into the assessment. So those are the examples really, but we are always told about it, and they are valid reasons. And usually those children are kind of older teenagers really.
Okay, thanks for that. So I'm taking it that you do look at them in terms of their urgency. That was the main concern, so that somebody outside of the 42 days is not one of the most urgent. That's where I'm taking that you do look at it in terms of the severity of the actual case. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for that, because obviously there was no target set, and I couldn't see how you would strive to get everything within the 42 days on that one. Okay, if I could go on to my next question, Chair.
Yeah.
Okay. My next question is on page 142, number 5. And I was just wondering, why is there a decrease if the same difficulties would have appeared the previous year? People would have had the same difficulties, so why have we got a decrease there?
Chris, did you want to come in?
Yeah, sorry, I was just about to come in, put my hand up. Councillor, this is so the review, similarly to what you've already heard. So no review goes out of timescale without it being approved by a principal officer. They are very much in terms of circumstances at the time. So individual circumstances throughout the course of the year, change is fluid. So, for example, we won't hold a review if a child can't attend. And if they want to attend, that simply wouldn't be right. And nor do we want the reviews to get in the way, for example, of education or employment opportunities. We'll do everything we can to rearrange that if the young person has something already planned and it clashes with the date of the review. Similarly, if a parent or carer can't attend because they're unwell, or if a professional hasn't provided a report for that review, that wouldn't be good enough. So we would insist on that review being rescheduled to ensure the right information and the right people are around the table. It varies every year by virtue of people's circumstances will vary throughout the year. So we can't really plan for sickness, appointments that need to be rearranged, professionals not sharing reports, but they are things that we do pick up outside of the forum then and raise with our partner agencies, for example.
Okay, thanks for that, because obviously that's in the red. So I would imagine that you're going to keep a close eye on that one.
We do, Councillor, and all I would add to that is that we regularly have sight of the reasons for reviews, be it they children looked after reviews, child protection reviews, initial or review conferences. We regularly on a monthly basis look at the reasons for those cases going or those reviews going out to timescales so that we can look for patterns, trends and themes that we might wish to bear down on, be it with a partnership, for example, with their reporting or other reasons.
Okay, thanks for that. If somebody else wants to ask a question, I'll come in because mine is towards the end of the.
Sure, is it on this item? No, there's. Okay, Andrew Jarrett, please.
Yeah, thanks very much. That's what I just wanted to say. That's a really good. What Chris Fade is absolutely right. There'll be lots of reasons why statutory review the time frame, but I think it's a statutory response, so we have a statutory duty to hold those reviews within appropriate time frames, and I think we should look at this in a bit more detail. You know, there can become a culture of, well, we can't do this because of lots of different reasons. As I say, we have to make sure that the percentage that we do within time frame. So I think let's go and have a look at that again and come back to you with a report on what that looks like and what our options are for.
Okay, thanks, Andrew. Yeah,
go forward.
That's really reassuring. My other question is on page 183. It's regarding the LAC and child protection. I was just wondering, I'm going to get my question up. The links between the two tables. I was just wondering, are any of the children admitted on the CPR register children that we've discharged? And also, is there a trend in terms of the timescale towards holidays? I can see school holidays are spiking in certain ways there. I wondered if there was a trend, if you've done an analysis. But are any of those children put on the CPR register children that we've discharged from the table above?
So I'll bring Chris in a second. We've done an awful lot of work on the child protection register. The more recently what we've done is the re-registration. So I would have an interest in cases where we've worked with a family whose children have been subject to a child protection plan. Multi-agency planning and support has led to the risks being reduced, and a multi-agency decision to remove those children's names from the register. And then at some point in time, there is further concern and further referrals received into the department. So there's you'll see the re-referral rate. So we've done a lot of work on re-referrals and getting underneath that to see what that is about. Those numbers, although the percentages seem high, the numbers are actually low because our overall numbers of children on the register are low for Neath Talbot. But I think, Councillor Freegard, so you're asking, were the children that were looked after? Is that your question? The children that were...
Yeah. If you look at the table, if you look at the first table, we discharge children, yeah? Now, the same time period, on the table below, we've got admission on the CPR register. Obviously, you've done an analysis. So are any of those children that we've discharged coming up on the CPR register?
The simple answer is no, councillor.
Right.
However, all I would say to that would be, if we did, and this may sound counterintuitive, but if we did have a child that went from children looked after to the CP register, that might be perceived as a positive in that we've been able to develop a plan to return that child back to its family. But that's just an
that would be
observation.
Subjective, obviously.
Of course, of course. But no answer to your question. The usual distance of travel with children would be that they would be care and support, and then child protection, and then children looked after. At this time, we don't have any children looked after coming down into that CP population.
Okay, thank you.
If I can just take you to page 152 in the wellbeing objective to all communities are thriving and sustainable. When it states about 47 non-fatal overdoses, is this through non-fatal being that obviously someone have tried to take their life, or could it be an accidental? Do we look at that and record that in a different way? Because again, these numbers, 47, is quite a concern really, and especially when it says that the figures could increase.
So this is in relation to substance use. I think Julia, who oversees the work of the Area Planning Board, she can answer this question in more detail and provide a bit more background to those figures on drug near fatal overdoses. Julia?
No problem. Thank you, councillor. So the data that appears in the table is in relation to non-fatal overdoses that the Area Planning Board is required to monitor under the guidance from Welsh Government, and they are in relation to accidental overdoses from a drug, from a substance. So we don't review any deliberate or suicide. That doesn't fall into that. This is an accidental overdose because of someone's taken an illicit substance. And the number of 47 is across the region. So the Area Planning Board works across Western Bay, Swansea and Neath Talbot. So in the report, you'll see there that there was actually 12 non-fatal overdoses in Neath Talbot and 35 in Swansea. So there is a specific remit that the board carries out in relation to this, and we review deaths and overdoses from a substance. So I hope that answers your question. I can explain a bit more about what we do in relation to those if you like, the welfare checks, etc. But I think the 47 is across the region.
Okay, thank you for that. I don't think we got any further questions now on that. Just bear with me. Thank you for that, Julie. This report is for monitoring. No, this report is for noting. Now we'll move on to the scrutiny agenda item 7. Again, this item is for noting, and those who were actually in previous meetings know that we've actually asked for this to be the committee action log to be included now going forward, so we can obviously have updates and briefs on any questions that we've asked to come back. We were supposed to have a visit tomorrow, which I was quite excited about, on base 15, but we have since had an email that is now cancelled due to staff sickness. So I would actually like that to be looked at and put back in the diary as soon as possible, please.
If I may say, Chair, I think the secretary's COVID, so apologies, but you know, it was we're erring on the side of caution, and Ali Davis I think is already literally just sending out a further invite for everyone, and my apologies because I know that's something that everybody was looking forward to.
Yep, no problem. Thank you, Kerry. Agenda item 8. This item is also for noting unless members have any specific to raise, but it's the forward work programme. So I can't see any hands raised. So I'll go straight on to agenda item 9. I have no urgent items. Agenda item 10, access to meetings. We will now need to consider the private items included on the Cabinet Board agenda. As you can see on the agenda, the private paragraph is there for everyone to read. Can I please have a proposer? I will propose. And a seconder?
I'll second.
To move into private. Can I please ask as well that any public or press in attendance now exit the meeting, and can the recording be stopped?